Trinity from The Matrix is a badass. The entire first scene of the movie is her kicking ass. She has agency, autonomy, and her own story. She doesn't need saving. In fact, she saves the male protagonist of the film several times. She is capable and can take care of herself. She can fly a helicopter, and she's the first one to kill an agent. She is part of a love story, but she's never positioned as just the love interest. And even though she's dressed head to toe in black leather, she's not necessarily sexualized. A lot of the characters are stylized in this black leather trench coat style, and it's more to look cool than sexy. No, I haven't just gone on a small rant about how awesome Trinity is for no reason at all. It's definitely relevant. As outlined in video 1, science fiction has a woman problem. There aren't as many women characters, and when they are there, they tend to be represented poorly. So the fact that Trinity is a well-written female character in sci-fi is a pretty big deal to me. There's only a couple of them. Trinity is a hacker, so she's a woman in STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. At a time when technology continues to transform the way we live, work, and learn, the need to close the STEM gender gap is more critical than ever. As it stands, women are dramatically underrepresented in STEM fields pretty much across the board, no matter what country you go to. As well as this, in Australia, 26% of the party that's currently in power is female, and women only hold 6.6% of the CEO positions of Fortune 500 companies. So there's definitely an equality problem, particularly in positions of power or prestige when it comes to women in the real world. The worlds that sci-fi stories take place in are usually man's worlds. That is, there are more men are on top, men are in charge, and men have all the power. Much like in real life, women are extremely unrepresented in STEM roles in sci-fi movies. One academic pointed out that the role of women scientists in sci-fi often reflect that job stereotypes are combined with gender stereotypes, and that women aren't positioned as equal to men in intelligence. Sometimes they do okay, like Ellie Sattler from Jurassic Park, but other times, not so much. Eva Flicker found that men make up 82% of all film scientists, and female scientists in sci-fi films that do exist generally fit into one of 6 categories. The old maid, the male woman, the naive expert, the evil plotter, the daughter assistant, and the lonely heroine. Each of these roles places the female scientist character on the sidelines and places her not on the same level as her male counterparts. Despite the fact that the women in these roles are educated, just as educated as the men, they are used as assistants and sexual characters. They often use their womanly ways, such as sex appeal, to be attractive to male characters and solve problems. The women in these films who aren't in STEM are usually in service roles or more domestic roles. 2001: A Space Odyssey does feature some female scientists, but most other women in the film are performing a service. When it comes to equal representation of women in leadership roles in the real future, things are also bleak. Fairfax Media calculated how long it would take for the New South Wales, Victorian, and federal parliaments to achieve equal representation of women and men in parliament. Based on current trends, Victoria is reaching 50% in 7 years by 2026. Federal Parliament will reach 50% women by 2046, and it's 2059 for New South Wales. When it comes to women in STEM, one researcher for evolutionary biology predicted that more than 200 years will pass before there is equal representation of women and men in STEM. The ways that women scientists are portrayed in films have contributed to viewers holding certain stereotypes of scientists. A 2007 meta-analysis looked at gender stereotyping by children who had been exposed to images of scientists through films and television. One study asked over 4,000 children to draw a scientist, and only 28 girls drew female scientists. That means that before kids are even thinking about their careers or taking subjects in STEM, their view of women's capabilities are being formed based on the representation of them in film, where 82% of scientists are men. Is it much surprise, then, that the disparity between men and women in STEM is so high? How accurate are sci-fi films in terms of representation of women in leadership and STEM roles? Films like Annihilation have mainly female casts, and the main characters are 4 females in STEM, and the film was received really well by audiences and critics. So people want to see science fiction films with female characters, and ones who are involved in science and technology. For too long, female-led science fiction stories have been considered soft, as they tend to deal with social issues instead of scientific ones, while hard science fiction deals with science. This distinction would be less gendered if women were encouraged to pursue careers in STEM, therefore making more women in the industry, which would lead to more science-based female stories being told in science fiction. And I think we can all get on board with that. Thank you for watching this brief video essay series on how science fiction imagines 3 women's issues in the speculative future and how realistic these imaginings are.